They told us the trucks would take us to the woods. Every German woman knew what that meant. The woods were where things disappeared. The woods were where the Soviets took the men who never came back. The woods were where, in the final days of the Reich, officers had executed deserters and hung them from the trees as warnings. When the American soldiers loaded 1,200 of us onto canvas-covered trucks that morning, in October 1945, pointing north toward the dense forests of the Catskill Mountains, we knew we were being taken to the woods. And none of us expected to come back. If this story challenges everything you thought you knew about history, hit that like button. This is a true story that changes people. Eiffel 5, 4, and 7 a.m. Camp Clinton, New Jersey. The whistle cuts through the pre-dawn darkness like a blade. Greta Fisher stands in formation, row 23, position 14. She has memorized this position. In prison, your position is your identity. She is 21 years old. She's been a prisoner for 6 months. She has not spoken to her family in 14 months. She does not know if they are alive. The October cold bites through her thin prison dress. Around her, 1,199 other German women stand in perfect rows, breath misting in the darkness. The camp is silent except for the sound of boots on frozen ground and the distant cawing of crows in the trees beyond the barbed wire fence. Those crows. Greta has learned to hate them. They sound like laughter. They sound like witnesses to something no one should see. The loudspeaker crackles. The commandant's voice, metallic and distorted, echoes across the yard. Prisoners 1 through 1,200. Transport detail. You will board trucks. You will bring nothing. You will speak to no one. You will follow instructions. Transport departs 0700 hours. Silence. Then a woman 3 rows ahead faints. The sound of her body hitting the frozen earth is dull, final. Guards do not move to help her. Another woman vomits into the dirt, the sound wet and desperate. A third begins to pray in German, her voice rising in panic. Vater unser, der du bist im Himmel. A guard barks, silence. The prayer dies mid-sentence, strangled. Greta feels her bladder tighten. She has heard the stories, when they take you away in trucks, when they tell you to bring nothing, when the destination is unnamed, you don't come back. In the growing light, she can see the faces around her. A girl no more than 17 stands 2 positions to her left. Her name is Hilda, former Hitler youth leader. Eyes like flint, jaw set. She still believes. Even now, even here, she believes Germany was right. Next to her, Anna, 35, widow. 3 children somewhere in the rubble of Dresden. Her hands never stop shaking. Behind them, Liesel, 42. Former university professor, linguistics, speaks 5 languages, says nothing. And Frida, 28, nurse, worked at a military hospital, saw things that emptied her of words. 5 women, 5 different wars, about to share 1 truck. The trucks arrive at 6:30 a.m. Military surplus. Canvas sides. Wooden benches. Diesel exhaust fills the air, thick and acrid. Greta watches as soldiers open the tailgates. They are young, these American soldiers. Boys, really. One has freckles and red hair. He cannot be more than 19. When he gestures for the women to climb aboard, his hand shakes slightly. He is afraid of them. Or afraid for them. Greta cannot tell which. She climbs into truck 17. The wood is rough, splinters catching on her threadbare dress. The bench is cold. 30 women crowd inside, pressed shoulder to shoulder, knees to chest. The smell is immediate. Fear sweat, unwashed bodies, the rust of old metal. But something else too, coffee. From a soldier's thermos. The smell of normal life. It makes everything worse. As Greta settles onto the bench, something catches her eye. A wool blanket, folded on the floor. She stares at it. Blankets are not given to people about to die. Unless they want you warm for the journey. Unless they want you comfortable before the end, she does not touch it. The canvas sides are down, but through gaps, she can see the other trucks loading. 40 trucks total. 1,200 women. An efficient operation. The Americans are good at logistics. They were good at war. Now they are good at this. Whatever this is, a young soldier appears at the tailgate. The freckled one. He makes eye contact with Greta, for just a second, and in his face she sees something that confirms her worst fear. Not hatred, not cruelty, pity. That is the look you give someone who will not exist tomorrow. She looks away. Her heart is hammering so hard she thinks the women next to her can hear it. The engines start, a rumble that shakes the truck bed. Then, with a lurch, they begin to move. Inside the truck, no one speaks. Not at first. The convoy moves slowly through the camp gates, then picks up speed on the main road. Through the gaps in canvas, Greta watches the world scroll past. Fields, farmhouses, a church steeple, normal America. The America that won the war. The America that does not know what is happening in the back of these trucks. After 20 minutes, Hilda speaks. Her voice is fierce, defiant. They are taking us to labor camps, mining, factories. They will work us until we drop. Anna's shaking intensifies. No, they are trading us to the Russians. We will be sent to Siberia. Frida, the nurse, speaks in her flat, professional tone. They are taking us to the woods because the ground is soft there. Easier to dig. The silence that follows is absolute. Everyone understands what she means. Mass graves. That is what soft ground is for. Liesel speaks for the first time in days. Her voice is Professor Calm, which somehow makes it more terrifying. In German folklore, the woods are where wolves hunt, where witches burn, where children get lost and never return. We have been conditioned for 1,000 years to fear the forest. They are taking us to the one place that lives in our nightmares. That is not an accident. The truck bounces over a pothole. Bodies sway in unison. Greta grips the bench. Do the canvas? She can see it now. Trees. Dense pine forest rising on both sides of the road. The convoy is slowing, turning. The road narrows. They are entering the woods. 1 hour passes. Then 2. The forest grows denser. The light filtering through the canvas turns green, underwater quality. It is like descending into something. A grave, a belly. A place where daylight does not reach. The truck slow to a crawl. Branches scrape against the canvas. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Like fingernails on a coffin lid, a woman near the back begins to weep. Quiet, broken sobs. Another joins her. Then another. Soon, half the truck is crying. The other half sits in stone-faced silence. Greta is in the second group. She will not cry. If she is going to die, she will die with her eyes open. The trucks stop. But the engines do not cut. They idle. Which means this is not the destination. This is a pause. Through the canvas, Greta sees dense pine, branches forming a canopy so thick it blocks the sky. No buildings, no civilization, no witnesses, just trees, endless trees. And that idling engine, that mechanical menace that says, "We are not done with you yet." Anna whispers, "My grandmother told me that in the old days, when they wanted to kill someone and make them disappear, they took them to the forest. The trees hide everything." Hilda, suddenly young, her armor cracking, says, "I do not want to die in the woods. I want to see the sun." Frida takes her hand, says nothing. What is there to say? The truck lurches forward again, deeper, darker, the road narrowing to almost nothing. Then, through the idling engines and the scratching branches, Greta hears something. Music. Not German music. Not German music. Not military music. American music. A song she does not recognize, but the rhythm is cheerful. Upbeat. Swing music. Big band. Makes no sense. Liesel hears it too. That is Glenn Miller, In the Mood. It was banned in Germany. Degenerate American jazz. But why would there be music in the woods? You do not play music at execution sites, unless they want you to think you are safe. Anna's voice barely audible. Unless they want us to think we are safe. The music gets louder, the truck slow, and then light. Not filtered green forest light, but open sky, bright, clear. The trucks emerge from the trees into a massive clearing, and the women see what the Americans built. Through the gap in canvas, in fragments, Greta sees wooden buildings, new lumber, fresh paint, an American flag hanging limp in still air. Smoke rising from chimneys. Wood smoke. Not the other kind. Not the kind from the photographs they whispered about in prison. People moving between buildings. Purposeful. Not panicked. Gardens with dried stalks. Post-harvest. And something impossible. A playground. Swings. A slide. Children's voices. The truck circled a clearing and stop. Engines cut. Silence. Real silence. Not the silence of fear. The silence of a place where sound has no reason to hide. A voice outside the truck. Everyone out. Single file. Slowly. The tailgate drops. Afternoon sun floods in. Greta squints, shielding her eyes. An American soldier stands there. Middle-aged, kind eyes. No weapon visible. He speaks in broken German. "Willkommen, welcome. You are safe now." Safe. The word makes no sense. You do not tell prisoners they are safe. You do not welcome the enemy. You do not build whatever this is in the woods. The women climb down, legs stiff from 3 hours of sitting. Greta's boots sink into soft earth, not mud, grass. There is grass here. In the clearing, she looks up and sees the sign above the main building. In English and German, Rehabilitation and Repatriation Center. Rehabilitation. The word is too big, too clean. It suggests futures. It suggests becoming something else. Greta does not understand. None of them understand. 3 women in civilian clothes approach. Not uniforms. Dresses. Clean dresses. One speaks German with a perfect accent. Swiss, perhaps. I am Margaret. This is Dorothy and Helen. We are with the International Red Cross. We will help you through your first days here. Red Cross. Not military. Not guards. Greta's brain cannot process the categories. Prison camps have guards. Execution sites have soldiers. This has women in dresses offering help. The smell hits her next. Bread baking. Where? From which building? And coffee. Real coffee. Not the acorn substitute they drank in Germany. And soap. Lavender soap. The smell of luxury. Of normal life. Of things that do not exist in places where people die. She looks around the clearing. Children playing near one of the buildings. But whose children? American children? German children? How are there children here? Laundry hanging on lines between buildings. Dresses. Shirts. Domestic. Normal. The dog barking. Playful, not aggressive. That swing music still playing, coming from a building with windows open. Laughter. Children laughing. Greta feels dizzy. The categories are all wrong. Death does not smell like bread. Execution sites do not have playgrounds. The end of the world does not sound like children laughing. Margaret leads them through the camp. No, not camp. Village. That is what it looks like. A small village in the woods. She speaks as they walk, explaining, but Greta barely hears. She is too busy trying to reconcile what she sees with what she expected. They stop at the first building. Mess hall, Margaretha calls it. Inside, long tables stretch across the room. Not prison tables. Family-style tables. With benches. Windows have curtains. Blue gingham. A kitchen visible through a service window. The smells are overwhelming. Roasting meat. Potatoes. Vegetables. American soldiers sit at some tables, eating alongside Red Cross workers. Eating together. The same food. Margaret says, meals are communal. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. You will eat the same food as the staff. Anna whispers beside Greta. It is a trick. They will starve us later. But Greta's not sure. This is too elaborate for a trick. Too expensive. The next building is a medical center. Inside, examination rooms with clean white walls. Beds with actual mattresses. A medicine cabinet fully stocked. 2 nurses, 1 American, 1 German. The smell of antiseptic, alcohol, clean bandages. A doctor, elderly and grandfatherly, looks up from paperwork. Each of you will receive a health screening. We will treat any illnesses, injuries, or malnutrition. This is not optional. We need you healthy. Frida, the nurse, analyzes everything with professional eyes. She whispers, this is a functioning clinic, real equipment. This is not temporary. Greta hears the confusion in her voice. Frida has seen field hospitals. She knows the difference between real medical care and theatrics. This is real, but the third building breaks something in all of them. Margaretha opens the door and says simply, the school. Inside are desks. Child-sized desks. A chalkboard with alphabet written in German. Books. German language primers. Children's drawings on walls. A young woman teaching. Patient and kind. 5 children sitting at desks, practicing letters. Hilda, angry now, demands, why is there a school? Margaretha answers calmly, some of you have children who will join you here, others will teach. Education continues. Liesel, who has been stone-faced since they arrived, who has protected herself with silence, walks slowly to one of the small desks. She sits, picks up a piece of chalk, and begins to cry. Not sad crying, not relieved crying, confused crying. The crying of someone whose entire understanding of reality has just collapsed. Because you do not build schools and execution camps. You do not teach children in places designed for death. The categories are fundamentally, irreparably wrong. They are assigned to barracks, not cells, not cages. Wooden cabins. 6 women per cabin. Greta's cabin holds her 4 companions plus 1 other woman who says nothing. Inside, the cabin is simple but clean. 6 beds, metal frames with mattresses. Real mattresses. Not straw. Not boards. Mattresses. Each bed has white sheets that smell like outside air. wool blankets, gray, scratchy, but warm, a pillow, an actual pillow. Between the beds, a small table, pegs on the wall for clothes, a window with glass, not bars, and in the corner, a wood stove. For heat, on each bed, folded neatly, a set of items. Greta touches them like they might disappear. One cotton dress, one sweater, undergarments, thick socks, a bar of soap, a toothbrush, a comb. Hilda picks up the toothbrush, stares at it like an artifact from another civilization. They gave us toothbrushes. The sentence hangs in the air, heavy with implication, because toothbrushes are for people with futures. People will wake up tomorrow and the day after. People who are not about to die. Greta sits on her bed. The mattress gives slightly under her weight. She has not sat on anything soft in 6 months. She touches the sheet. Clean, white, real. She picks up the bar of soap, lavender. The same scent from the clearing. She holds it to her nose and inhales. The smell of being human, of dignity, of small luxuries that do not exist in places where people are treated like animals. She does not understand any of it. Night falls. They lie in their beds, unable to sleep. The barracks are heated. Not warm, but heated. Greta pulls the blanket up to her chin and stares at the ceiling. Outside, she can hear distant sounds. Guards on patrol, but far away. Not patrolling the barracks. Just the perimeter. The wind in pines. An owl calling. Safe sounds. Normal sounds. Hilda speaks first. This is psychological torture. They are making us comfortable so we will betray Germany. Give them information. Anna, ever practical, says, "What information? We were secretaries. Nurses. We do not know anything useful." Frida, clinical, adds, "I have seen propaganda. I have seen deception. This is too elaborate, too expensive. Why waste resources on a trick?" Liesel, finally speaking fully, says, "The category error is intentional. We expect death. They give us life. We expect cruelty. They give us toothbrushes." This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. The mind cannot hold contradictions. One of our beliefs must be wrong. Silence. Then Greta speaks with an authority she does not feel. What if both are true? What if the Americans are the enemy, but they are also this? What if people can be both cruel and kind? What if we can be both victim and perpetrator? What if the world is more complicated than what we are taught? The silence that follows is different, thoughtful, uncertain. Anna says quietly, "My daughter is 7. If she is alive, she is starving in Dresden, and I am here, in a bed with sheets. It is not right." Greta responds, "No, it is not right, but it is real." That is the moment when they stop trying to understand and start trying to survive understanding. Outside, the wind picks up. The owl calls again. Somewhere in the distance, that swing music plays, and 1,200 German women lie in beds with clean sheets, trying to reconcile the woods they feared with the clearing they found. They came here expecting death. They found something far more confusing. They found mercy, and mercy, it turns out, is harder to process than cruelty, because cruelty confirms what you believe about the enemy, but mercy forces you to question everything. Tomorrow will bring the first meal, the first full day in this impossible place, and with it, the beginning of a transformation none of them are ready for. Because they can survive brutality. They have done it before, but kindness from the enemy, that is a weapon they have no defense against. Morning comes with the sound of a bell, 6 a.m. The women rise, groggy and disoriented. They have slept, which surprises them. Real sleep. Not the half-conscious vigilance of prison. Actual sleep in beds with sheets. Greta sits up and, for a moment, forgets where she is. Then it all comes back. The woods, the clearing, the impossible village, the toothbrush on the table beside her bed. They are given 15 minutes to wash and dress. A bathroom adjoins the barracks. Running water. Cold, but clean. Sinks with mirrors. Toilets that flush. Towels hanging on hooks. Greta washes her face, the water shocking against her skin. She looks in the mirror. Same face, same woman. But something in her eyes is different. Confused, wary, waiting for the trap to spring. The bell rings again. Breakfast. They walk to the mess hall in a loose group. 1,200 women moving across the clearing like a slow river. The morning air is cold and sharp. October in the mountains. The sky is pale blue, cloudless, beautiful. Greta has not thought about beauty in months. In prison, there is no room for beauty, only survival. But here, in this clearing, surrounded by autumn trees turning gold and red, beauty forces itself into her consciousness. Inside the mess hall, the tables are already set. Plates, silverware, napkins, not paper napkins. Cloth. Greta stares at the cloth napkin beside her plate. When did she last use a cloth napkin? Before the war. A lifetime ago. When she was a different person, in a different world. And waves. American soldiers and Red Cross workers bring it to the table, serving family style. Scrambled eggs, yellow and fluffy, steam rising. Toast, white bread, still warm, with butter. Real butter, not margarine. Bacon, crispy and salty. Coffee, real coffee. The smell alone is enough to make Greta's eyes water. She has not smelled real coffee in 3 years. She picks up her fork. Her hand is shaking. She does not know why. This is just food. Just breakfast. But it is not just food. It is abundance. It is normalcy. It is the enemy feeding her better than her own country ever did. The first bite of eggs. Salt. Pepper. Butter. Rich and creamy. Her stomach clenches. When did she last eat eggs? She cannot remember. The second bite. Flavor floods in, overwhelming. The third bite. She begins to cry, not sobbing, just tears running down her face while she eats. She cannot stop them, cannot control them. Around her, other women are crying too, silent tears streaming while they eat scrambled eggs and toast. Some women eat mechanically, faces hard, refusing to show emotion. Others eat slowly, reverently, like communion. Hildy eats with her jaw clenched, anger radiating from every movement. Anna eats and cries openly, not bothering to wipe her tears. Frida analyzes each bite before consuming it. The nurse and her checking for poison even as her body betrays her with hunger. Weasel stares at her plate for a full minute before eating, and when she finally takes a bite, she closes her eyes. A young American soldier approaches their table. He cannot be more than 20, freckled, nervous. Is everything okay? Is the food, is it good? He genuinely wants to know. Genuinely cares if they like breakfast. Frida answers in broken English. Food is very good. Thank you. The soldier smiles, relieved, and walks away. Anna says quietly after he is gone, he thanked us for thanking him, for feeding us, his prisoners. The logic is broken, all of it. They are enemies. They are defeated. They are supposed to be punished. Not thanked. Not asked if breakfast is good. Greta eats until her stomach hurts. Then she eats more, because she does not know when this will end, when the real punishment will begin, when the food will stop, and the cruelty will start. She eats like she is storing food in her body for the famine she knows must be coming. But it does not come. Not that day. Not the next. By the end of the first week, a routine has established itself. Morning bell, breakfast, work assignments, lunch, more work, dinner, recreation, lights out. The work is real but not brutal. Kitchen duty, laundry, maintenance, sewing. Each woman is assigned based on her skills. Greta works in the kitchen, peeling vegetables, washing dishes, helping prepare meals. She is paid for this work. 5 cents a day in camp script. Tokens that can be used at the canteen. The canteen opens in the evenings after dinner. It is a small building near the center of the clearing, shelves lined with items the women can purchase. Cigarettes, candy bars, soap, toothpaste, writing paper, stamps. Greta goes on her third day, curious and cautious. Inside, the sight stops her cold. Shelves lined with goods, chocolate bars in colorful wrappers, packs of Lucky Strike cigarettes, tubes of Colgate toothpaste, bars of Ivory soap. It looks like a store, a real store. She has earned 15 cents. She buys a Hershey's chocolate bar for 5 cents. Writing paper for 5 cents. A stamp for 5 cents. She has never chosen what to buy before. In Germany, there was nothing to buy. In prison, there are no choices. But here she stands in front of shelves, making decisions about small pleasures. That night, sitting on her bed, she unwraps the chocolate bar, breaks off one square, places it on her tongue. The sweetness is almost painful. She has not tasted sugar in 2 years. The chocolate melts slowly, coating her mouth. Rich, sweet, impossible. She closes her eyes and for just a moment, she forgets where she is, forgets the war, forgets everything except this small square of sweetness. But then guilt crashes in. Her mother is in Germany, starving, if she is even alive, and Greta is eating chocolate. American chocolate, enemy chocolate. The contradiction is unbearable. She takes out the writing paper. A pencil is provided in the barracks, a small stub of yellow wood and graphite. She writes, "Dear Mother, I do not know if you are alive. I do not know if this will reach you. But I am in America. I am safe. They are feeding us. I do not understand it, but I am alive. Please be alive too. Your daughter, Greta. She does not mail it yet. She is not sure she believes it herself. How can she send a letter saying she is being treated well? Who would believe such a thing? The Americans must be brutal. That is what they were told. That is what must be true. Except it is not true. And the truth is more terrifying than any lie. Week 3 arrives with a new announcement. Mandatory assembly in the main hall. All 1,200 women are required to attend. The words mandatory and assembly trigger old fears. Mandatory means no choice. Assembly means something official, something important, something potentially terrible. They file into the main hall, a large wooden building with rows of benches facing a stage. The walls are bare except for an American flag and a portrait of President Truman. The women sit in nervous silence. Guards stand at the exits, but they do not carry rifles. Just presence, just authority. An American officer takes the stage, not a young soldier, a colonel. Mid-50s, war-weary face. He wears his uniform with the weight of someone who has seen too much. When he speaks, his voice is flat, emotionless. A translator, a middle-aged German woman, stands beside him and repeats his words. You were told you were soldiers for Germany. You were told you were defending civilization. You were told the enemy was evil. Today, I am going to show you what you defended. Lights dim. A projector clicks on. The screen illuminates with harsh white light, and then the images begin. Auschwitz. The gates with their cruel promise, Arbeit, mock frei. Work sets you free. Piles of bodies, skeletal, naked, stacked like cordwood. Survivors behind barbed wire, hollow-eyed, skin stretched over bone. Children. So many children. The ovens at Auschwitz, the gas chambers at Treblinka. Documents, medical experiments, numbers tattooed on arms, mass graves, mountains of shoes, mountains of hair, mountains of glasses. The colonel's voice continues, flat and factual, letting the images speak for themselves. 6 million Jews, 5 million others, Poles, Roma, disabled, homosexuals, political prisoners. This is what the Reich built while you typed letters and bandaged soldiers and taught children to salute. The hall is silent, not the silence of respect, the silence of horror, of disbelief, of minds breaking under information too large to process. A woman 3 rows ahead vomits. The sound is loud in the quiet. Someone else faints, gasping, crying. One woman screams and runs from the hall, her footsteps echoing. Greta stares at the screen. She cannot look away, cannot close her eyes. Every image burns into her brain. She had heard rumors during the war, whispers. But rumors can be dismissed. Rumors can be propaganda. Photographs cannot be dismissed. The colonel was right. The sources are too varied. The testimony too consistent. The evidence too overwhelming. This is real. This happened. And she was part of it. She typed letters, filed reports, passed along orders without reading them. Every small, insignificant action was a brick in this. Every moment she chose not to question, not to look, not to know, built this mountain of death. Beside her, Hilda hisses, "This is propaganda. American lies." But her voice cracks. The certainty is fracturing. Liesel, the professor, says quietly, "The documentation is too extensive, the sources too varied, the testimony too consistent. This is real." Frida, who saw the wounded, who worked in hospitals, whispers, "I wondered where the Jewish patients went. They told us they were transferred. I believed them because it was easier." Anna says nothing, just rocks slowly, arms wrapped around herself, a sound coming from her throat that is not quite crying, not quite keening, something deeper, something broken. The images continue, 20 minutes that feel like hours. When the lights finally come back on, the women sit in stunned silence. The colonel speaks again. "You did not know. Many of you truly did not know. But ignorance is not innocence. You are part of a machine. Now you must choose what to do with that knowledge." Leaves the stage. The women remain seated. No one moves. No one speaks. The mercy they have received suddenly makes a terrible kind of sense. They are not being punished with cruelty. They are being punished with truth. And truth, it turns out, is the cruelest punishment of all. The barracks are quiet. Each woman processes the lecture differently. Hilda refuses to believe it. Sits on her bed, jaw clenched, insisting it is fake photographs, Jewish propaganda. But she stops eating. Her body believes what her mind denies. By the end of the week, she has lost 10 pounds. Anna writes to her daughter. Her hand shakes so badly she can barely hold the pencil. "Stay good. No matter what they tell you about your country, stay good. That is all that matters. She writes it 7 times before she is satisfied. Then she cries for 3 hours. Frida goes to the medical clinic, asks the American doctor, an elderly man with kind eyes, "Did you see them, the camps?" He nods. She asks, "What did you do?" He answers, "I helped who I could. It was not enough. It will never be enough." They sit in silence for 10 minutes. Then Frida returns to the barracks. Liesel returns to teaching. There are classes now, English lessons for the women, German lessons for the American children of staff. She insists on teaching history, the real history. If we forget, we repeat, she tells her students. Some women refuse to attend her classes. Others come every day, desperate to understand. Greta sits on her bed, holds the uneaten dinner she could not force down, and understands for the first time the Americans are not being kind because they are weak. They are being kind because they are strong enough to choose kindness over revenge. That is the power she never understood. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is terrifying strength. She picks up the letter she wrote to her mother, reads it again, then tears it up. She starts a new letter. "Dear Mother, I have lied to you. I told you I was safe. That is true. I told you they were treating us well. That is true. But I did not tell you why. They are showing us what we did, what Germany did. What I helped do by choosing not to know. I do not know if I can come home, not because they will not let me, but because I do not know who I am bringing back. The daughter you sent to war is dead. I killed her in a lecture hall 3 days ago. I do not know who I am now, but I am alive, and I will try to be better. Your daughter, Greta." She folds the letter, addresses it, takes it to the postbox, and drops it in. November arrives, then December. Numbered Gavin transforms. Evergreen branches decorate every building. A massive Christmas tree appears in the center of the clearing, taller than any tree Greta has ever seen. Lights are strung between buildings, glowing in the early darkness of winter evenings. The smell of pine and baking fills the air. Christmas Eve. The mess hall has been transformed. Tables arranged in a circle. A feast laid out that would have fed a village in Germany. Turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, pies. So many pies. Pumpkin, apple, cherry. Candles everywhere. Christmas music. Silent night, in German. The Americans have invited the German women to celebrate with them. Not as prisoners, as guests. Greta sits at a table with her cabin mates. An American family sits across from them. A soldier, his wife, their 2 young children. The wife smiles and says in careful German, "Frohe Weihnachten, Merry Christmas." She hands Anna a small wrapped package. Anna's hands shake as she unwraps it. Inside is a knitted scarf, handmade. Blue wool. Soft. Beautiful. "For you," the wife says. "For when you go home." Anna breaks. Completely. Anna breaks. Completely. Sobs that shake her entire body. The American wife stands, comes around the table, and embraces her. This enemy woman, this prisoner, this participant in a regime that murdered millions. She embraces her and says, "It is okay. You are going to be okay." Greta watches this and feels something inside her chest crack. Not break. Crack. Like ice in spring. Around the room, American soldiers and German prisoners sing carols together. Children, American and German, play under the Christmas tree. Food is shared. Laughter rises. Real laughter. Hildy stands abruptly, walks out into the snow. Greta follows. Outside, in the cold December night, Hildy is breaking. "I cannot do this." Cannot do what? Be forgiven. Be treated like a human being. Be given gifts and food and kindness. Why not? Because I do not deserve it. She is screaming now. "I was Hitler Youth. I taught children to hate." I report of a neighbor who hid a Jewish family. I believed every lie. I spread every lie. And they are giving me scarves? She falls to her knees in the snow. Greta kneels beside her. Maybe that is the point. Maybe they are showing us that mercy is not about deserving. It is about choosing. Hilda looks at her, face wet with tears and snow. "I do not know how to live with this." Greta says quietly, "Neither do I. But we have to try." They kneel in the snow. Christmas music floating from the hall. 2 German women. 2 people discovering that guilt and grace can exist in the same moment. That survival means learning to carry both. Inside, the celebration continues. Outside, 2 women begin the long work of becoming human again. 1946. The announcement comes during morning assembly. First group repatriation. 500 women will return to Germany within 2 weeks. Greta's name is on the list. She feels nothing. No joy. No fear. Just a strange, hollow emptiness. She should be happy. She is going home. But home is ruins. Home is hunger. Home is a devastated nation trying to rebuild from ashes. And she is returning as someone different. Someone who knows things she cannot unknow. Someone who carries truths too heavy to speak. The Americans provide for their journey. New clothes. Not uniforms. Civilian dresses. Plain but clean and warm. Sturdy shoes. Winter coats. Travel documents. $50 American each. A fortune. Train tickets to Hamburg. Certificates of completion from the re-education program. Lists of democratic principles printed on laminated cards. Contact information for international aid organizations. Greta receives all of this and tries to understand. She came here as a prisoner. She leaves as something else. Not free exactly. You cannot be free when you carry this much guilt. But released. Given tools, given money, given a chance. The day before departure, she walks through the clearing one last time, the school where Liesel still teaches, the medical clinic where Frida volunteers, the library where she spent so many evenings reading books banned in Germany, the mess hall where she learned that food could be abundant, the chapel where she prayed for the first time since the war. In the library, she finds Corporal Miller, the young freckled soldier who looked at her with pity on that first day. He is holding a small package. I wanted to give you this before you go. Inside is a notebook, blank pages, leather cover, 2 pencils, and a copy of the American Constitution, translated into German. Why? She asks. Miller shifts awkwardly. Because you should write it down. What happened here? What you learned. So someday, someone will know. He pauses. My grandfather came from Germany. 1910. Made a good life here. When the war started, people gave him trouble. Called him a Nazi even though he left before Hitler was born. He told me, people are not their governments. Governments come and go. People endure. I think he was right. Greta takes the notebook. Runs her fingers over the leather cover. I do not know if I deserve this. Miller looks at her seriously. Maybe deserving is not the point. Maybe accepting is. He salutes her. Not mockingly. With respect. Then he leaves. She opens the notebook. On the first page, Miller has written, For Greta. May your words build bridges your country burned. TPL J. Miller, U.S. Army, 1946. She touches the words with her fingertips. This small act of kindness. This enemy soldier giving her paper and pencil and respect. This is what she will remember most. Not the lectures. Not the food. This. One human seeing another and saying, Your story matters. The train to New York. Then the ship across the Atlantic. 8 days at sea with 500 German women who are no longer quite what they were. They are quieter now. More thoughtful. The angry defiance has been replaced by something more complex. Understanding, shame, determination, confusion, all mixed together. Greta spends the crossing writing in Miller's notebook, every detail of the camp, every lecture, every kindness, every moment of transformation. She writes until her hand cramps, then she writes more. Because Miller was right, someone needs to know. Truth exists even when denied. Documenting the truth is how you prevent forgetting. On the 7th day, Anna sits beside her. Do you think they will believe us? Greta looks up from her writing. No. Anna says, then why write it? Greta answers, because whether they believe it does not change that it happened. Truth exists even when denied. That is what the Americans taught us. Document the truth. Let others choose what to do with it. Land appears on the horizon. Germany. The women gather at the rail, silent. This is not a homecoming. This is a return to a graveyard. But they go anyway, because what choice is there? The ship docks in Hamburg. April 1946. 16 months after the war ended, Greta steps onto German soil and feels the weight of reality settle over her like a shroud. Hamburg is unrecognizable. Whole neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Buildings stand like broken teeth against gray sky. People move through the streets like ghosts, hollow-eyed, thin, moving slow, conserving energy. This is what Germany has become. This is what they fought for. This is home. She travels to Bremen. 3 days by foot and borrowed cart. The roads are cratered. Bridges are out. She walks through villages that no longer exist. Just foundations and chimneys standing like gravestones. She passes displaced persons camps. Temporary shelters housing thousands. The camps are nothing like the American clearing. These are tents and desperation. Starvation rations. No heat. No hope. Shh. She finds her mother in one of these camps, a converted school building housing 200 refugees. The building has no windows, no heat. People sleep on floors, packed together for warmth. The smell is overwhelming. Unwashed bodies, sickness, despair. Her mother is in a corner on a thin mattress. Greta barely recognizes her. She was always small, but now she is skeletal, maybe 90 pounds. Her hair, once brown, is completely white. Her clothes hang on a frame like rags on a scarecrow. But she is alive. Mama. Her mother looks up. For a moment, no recognition. Then her eyes focus. Greta? They embrace. Her mother feels like bones wrapped in paper. No flesh, just bones. They hold each other for a long time, neither speaking. Finally, her mother pulls back and looks at her. Really looks. You are healthy. Half question, half accusation. Greta nods. They fed us, treated us well. Her mother's face twists with something Greta cannot read. Anger, jealousy, relief, all three. We starved, she says quietly, while you were safe. The words sting because they are true. Greta has no defense. She survived. She was cared for. Her family suffered. It is not fair, but it is the truth. They sit together in the cold building. Greta shares her food, the chocolate she saved from the canteen. Her mother eats slowly, crying. What was it like, really? Greta tells her. Everything, the trucks, the woods, the fear, the clearing, the kindness, the truth, the lectures, the truth, the truth, the race, the transformation. Wolf. Her mother listens. Finally, she says, they broke you. Greta nods. Yes. And then they built you back differently. Yes. Her mother thinks. That is not kindness. That is strategy. Greta says, maybe, but it worked. And maybe that is okay. Maybe being broken was necessary. What will you do now? Her mother asks. Greta pulls out the notebook Miller gave her. I am going to write and teach and tell the truth, even when people do not want to hear it. Because the Americans taught us one thing above all: silence is how evil persists. Speech is how we fight it. 3 weeks later, a community gathering in a destroyed church. Half the roof is gone, open to the sky. Greta has been asked to speak about her time in America. 200 people sit on broken pews and rubble. They expect horror stories. American brutality, validation of their suffering. What they get is different. Greta stands before them, Miller's notebook in her hands. They fed us 3 meals a day. They gave us beds and blankets. They taught us about democracy. They showed us photographs of what we did. They treated us like humans even though we were the enemy, and I hated them for it, because it is easier to hate cruel enemies than kind ones. Because kindness forced me to see that everything I believed was a lie. Silence. Then someone shouts, "You were brainwashed. American propaganda." Others join in. Traitor. Collaborator. Half the audience stands to leave, but half stays, and Greta speaks to those who stay. Because those are the ones who might listen, and listening is how change begins. She speaks for an hour about the camp, about the lectures, about the truth that cannot be denied, about the guilt she carries and the responsibility to be better. Some people cry, some argue, but they listen. When she finishes, an old man approaches. My grandson was in the Wehrmacht. He died at Stalingrad. Are you telling me he died for nothing? Greta looks at him with compassion. I am telling you he died for a lie, and acknowledging that does not diminish his sacrifice. It honors his memory by ensuring we never lie like that again. The man stares at her, then nods slowly, walks away. Greta does not know if she reached him, but she tried. That is all she can do. Try, speak, tell the truth, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. The years pass. Germany rebuilds, slowly, painfully. Greta teaches. She marries, has children, writes 3 books about the camp, about re-education, about the necessity of confronting truth. She lectures at universities. Some people listen, many do not, but she continues. Now, October 1985, 40 years after the trucks took her into the woods. Greta is 61 years old. She sits in her apartment in Munich, Miller's notebook on her lap. The leather is worn now, pages yellowed, but the words remain. She opens to the last page and writes, 40 years ago today, I stepped off a truck in a clearing in the Catskill Mountains. I expected death. I received education. I expected cruelty. I received mercy. I expected to remain who I was. I became someone else. The Americans did not forgive us. They gave us tools to forgive ourselves. The difference is everything. Mercy is not weakness. Truth is not negotiable, and transformation is possible, even in the woods, especially in the woods. Greta Fisher, October 23, 1985. She closes the notebook. Outside her window, the streets of Munich are clean, rebuilt, prosperous. Germany has risen from the ashes. Not the same Germany, a different one. Better in some ways, still haunted in others. She has spent 40 years teaching young Germans about what their grandparents did, about how easy it is to choose not to know, about how silence enables evil. Her granddaughter Lisa visits that evening. 16 years old, bright, curious. Oma, tell me about the camp again. Greta smiles. She has told this story hundreds of times, but for Lisa, she tells it one more time. The trucks, the woods, the terror, the clearing, the kindness, the truth, the transformation. So the Americans were the good guys, Lisa asks. Greta shakes her head. It is not that simple. People are not good guys or bad guys. People make choices. Good choices and bad choices. The Americans chose mercy when they could have chosen revenge. We chose ignorance when we could have chosen courage. Both are choices. Both have consequences. The point is to learn, to remember, to choose better. This is the story that Greta Fisher carried for 65 years. The story of 1,200 German women who were taken to the woods expecting death and found life, who were treated as enemies and shown mercy, who learned that the most powerful weapon is not cruelty but kindness, that forces you to question everything. Their stories deserve to be remembered, not because they were victims, they were not, but because they were witnesses. To humanity's capacity for both evil and grace, to the power of truth over propaganda, to the strength required to choose mercy over revenge. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it. Because these truths, uncomfortable and complicated as they are, matter. There are more stories like this buried in history. Stories without easy villains or simple heroes. Stories that force us to see that people are complicated. That mercy is radical. That truth is essential. Subscribe for more. Because remembering is how we resist repeating. The woods are just woods. The monsters are in what we choose to believe. The salvation is in what we choose to become.